Hello YouTube viewers, it's Silvertardis here with yet another Doctor Who episode review. Today I'm going to be looking at the penultimate episode of Doctor Who Series 7, Nightmare in Silver by Neil Gaiman. This is the episode a lot of fans were screaming to see, obviously because it featured the return of the Cybermen with an awesome looking design, I must say. It's sort of a combination between the Cybermen from The Wheel in Space and the Cybermen. In fact, they bear a remarkable resemblance to Iron Man, but anyway, I'm rambling on. Neil Gaiman wrote this episode, and a lot of fans wanted to see him back for Series 7 after the phenomenal episode he wrote for Series 6, which was, of course, The Doctor's Wife. So, is Nightmare in Silver as good as The Doctor's Wife? Is it the best Cybermen story ever made? Well, let's take a look at it. I think the thing that annoyed a lot of people, especially when it was revealed at the end of last week's episode, is that we were going to be having the kids from the Bells of St. John, who Clara was babysitting, along with the Doctor and Clara in the TARDIS. Now, I had mixed feelings about that, because we know virtually nothing about these kids other than the fact Clara babysits them, and they've been doing a little background research and found all these photos of her in different time periods. But in the Bells of St. John, we never really got to look at them as individuals. And in this story, they didn't really do anything. In fact, they're possessed for most of it. Now, I'm not going to fault the two child actors who played Angie and Artie, because, like a lot of good child actors in Doctor Who recently, they put on a good performance, but it's their characters that I really have a problem with. I didn't mind Artie so much, although his character was pretty one note. He was just this excited little boy, just happy to be where he is, on a different planet, in a different time. He gets to fly an anti-grav, he plays chess with a Cyberman. He's happy to be where he is. Angie, on the other hand, my god, what an ungrateful little cow. Think about this for a bit, people. She blackmails Clara into forcing the Doctor to take her and her younger brother to this alien theme park, and she doesn't show any gratitude at all. She gets to fly in anti-grav, see all these alien waxworks, get an alien coin. I mean, I would have been pretty chuffed to actually get some alien currency, take that home as a souvenir. But no, all she does is complain, and she's rude and bitchy to just about everyone. Well, she has a good go at Clara for a start, just going, I hate you, you just had to show up and ruin everything, why can't you leave me alone? In fact, I think we've seen this sort of bitchy character before, haven't we, Mel's? What's more, the character is clearly stupid, because she wanders off into a place she doesn't even know when the Doctor tells her and Archie twice not to wander off. How stubborn can you get? But anyway, I'm rambling on about a minor part of the episode. The Cybermen is what you want to hear about. I like the scene where we get a Cyberman playing chess with Archie, and I jumped out of my skin when it grabbed Webley's wrists. The only way I think they could have made Webley's collection look a bit more impressive is if we had one or two of the classic Cybermen on display. I mean, there was more than one Cyber War. Heck, even one of the classic Cyberheads would have been nice, but anyway, there was very little to complain about. As for the other aliens in the Waxwork collection, they were all taken from Rings of Ackerton. Well, at least most of them were. We had the Blowfish mask from Torchwood. We had one of the ventriloquist dummies from the God Complex. Yeah, there might have been one or two other aliens in that collection somewhere, but yeah, they were essentially just using past costumes. Another standout set for me was obviously the Cyberman tombs. They're of course based on the tombs of the Cybermen from Tomb of the Cybermen. Not only that, but when we see the Cybermen coming out of those tombs en masse, the camera zooms out and we get this CGI shots of loads of floors of cyber tombs, and it's pretty much a combination of the tombs from Tomb of the Cybermen and, when we zoom out, Attack of the Cybermen as well. So I'm glad that they were able to blend those two very different looking sets from past stories together in this. And when the Cybermen come out of those tombs en masse, I don't care what Murray Gold was playing. The only music that was playing in my head was the Earthshock theme tune. And I think the same goes for a lot of classic fans. New Cybermen, as I've already said, love their design. Combination of the Moonbase Cybermen and the Cybermen from Rise of the Cybermen. And they've got some new tricks up their sleeve. The Cybermen in this story come across as a force to be reckoned with. The Cybermen were all slow and noisy, but these Cybermen, they've got more of an advantage because they can sneak up on their enemies now, but at the same time they've still got that mechanical sound when they walk, although a much quieter one. And as for those new tricks I mentioned, they can remove bits of their own body to fool their enemies now, and it's not like we haven't seen that before, like in the Pandorica Opens. But there's one scene where one of the Cybermen removes its own head to fool one of the soldiers. How can she not tell that's just a head on top of some boxes? But anyway, the other new tricks include the fact that they're able to move pretty much at the speed of sound and whisk Angie away like a gust of wind. But if they're able to do that, why don't they do that some more? They could just make it to the castle hands down and get rid of all the people much quicker that way, if they're able to move that quickly. And as for the upgrading thing, I don't have a problem with the Cybermen upgrading to counter their weaknesses and everything, but that way they sort of have an answer for everything, and yes, that does make them a much more powerful enemy, but I hope in future stories that they don't do it too often, because the only way they'll end up being stopped is with some sort of cop-out, and none of us want that. Also, there are times when the upgrading thing just didn't make any sense, like when one of the Cybermen upgrades itself to be, and well, in fact, the entire cyber race. One Cyberman does it, they all seem to be immune to it. One of the Cybermen upgrades itself to be immune to the disintegration gun. How do you become immune to disintegration? It doesn't make any sense. Moments ago, they were blowing up Cybermen left, right and centre, and all of a sudden, not even a scratch. This episode also featured the return of the Cyber Planner. Now, for the fans of the new series who aren't aware what that is, in the classic series, the Cyber Planner was this sort of computer that the Cybermen would have on their ship or in their base or whatever, and essentially it was just a sort of ball in the middle of some machinery with some wires coming out of it. But this new Cyber Planner, which starts to control the Doctor, I think that was much more interesting, and I like the way it's shot, because when the real Doctor's speaking, we see the normal side of his face. When he's not, we see the converted side of his face, and when the Doctor does get converted, it does come as a real shock. The same way it was a shock to see him all red in the Crimson Horror. And Matt Smith's performance, exceptional as always, not just as the Doctor, but really creeping me out as the Cyber Planner, so well done to him. The miniature Cybermats, the Cyber Mites as the Doctor calls them, very interesting to see a new type of cyber conversion, or bit of cyber technology. Although I do hope we see the Cyber Mats back again as well, because the Cyber Mites didn't really get a very good look at them, well, because they were so small. But moving on, Jason Watkins as the Showmaster, as Webley. Yeah, he does a good job. Yeah, he definitely does a very good job in the first part of the story. Then in the middle, he goes quiet when the Doctor becomes the Cyber Planner, and doesn't speak again until he's on the verge of killing Angie. And just one shock from Porridge's electromagnetic wrist thing is enough to knock him out. But I didn't really mind that. Now, as for Clara, since Clara came aboard the TARDIS, I've sort of been waiting for her to actually do something. But with the exception of Neil Cross's stories, Hyde and the Rings of Akaton, we don't see that. But here, she takes command of a whole platoon, and she sure as hell knows how to use a gun. Although I am a little bit disappointed about how the episode ended, where she just walks out of the TARDIS with the kids again, and there isn't really an appropriate transition from this episode to the series finale. There's no sort of teaser other than the Next Time trailer, which was a bit disappointing. But Jenna-Louise Coleman, very good in the role, so top marks to her. Now, the soldiers in this story are pretty one note. I could see that Neil Cross was trying to give them all these different personalities and give them sort of standout names. We had Beauty, I'm not quite sure who she was, Brains, who is obviously based off Brains from Thunderbirds, Ha-Ha, who I think is the fat one who was taunting the Cyberman, Missy, she was the one who had that hand jump on her face, and there was the captain. I can't even remember what her proper name was, actually. It only got mentioned once or twice. But they really weren't a memorable cast of characters. That just leaves us with one character to talk about. I am, of course, talking about Porridge, played by Warwick Davis. I wasn't expecting him to turn out to be the Emperor. I mean, we do hear in this story that he's gone missing. We don't really know who these people are talking about. And when it's revealed that Porridge is the Emperor, that's when I understand his character. He ran away and decided to lie low because he couldn't cope with the responsibility of ruling 1,000 galaxies. And for the look of him, he doesn't look like, certainly doesn't look like the waxwork in what's his name's collection. And Warwick Davis does a good job at playing Porridge, but there's just one scene that made me go, what? Where did that come from? And that's when he asks Clara to marry him. Now I'm thinking, yeah, I'm sure they've had their good moments together, but did we really need to go through that? But thankfully Clara says no, and we get on with the last bit of the episode. So, conclusion. Overall, I'm going to give Nightmare in Silver a 9 out of 10. It's a great comeback story for the Cybermen. It wasn't perfect by any means, but this is the Cybermen at their best, and we haven't seen them at their best for a long time. Bit disappointed that the ending doesn't lead into next week's episode as I had expected, but be sure to join me for that review of the series finale next week, where we may or may not discover the name of the Doctor. And I really hope we don't.